The Sumerians were the first people to build what we would recognize as civilization. Around 3500 BCE, in southern Mesopotamia, they created cities, writing, legal systems, irrigation, and organized religion. Before them, humans lived in scattered settlements. After them, history truly began. And then they disappeared. The Sumerians didn't collapse overnight. Their downfall was slow and structural. Their advanced irrigation systems slowly poisoned the soil with salt, reducing crop yields over generations. Food shortages weakened cities. As conditions worsened, outside groups like the Akkadians conquered and absorbed Sumerian city-states. Over time, the Sumerian language stopped being spoken. Their identity dissolved. By around 2000 BCE, the Sumerians no longer existed as a people. Civilization survived, but its creators were erased. The Indus Valley civilization was one of the largest and most advanced societies of the ancient world. At its peak around 2600 BCE, it stretched across modern-day Pakistan and India, with massive cities like Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa. These cities had grid layouts, standardized bricks, advanced drainage systems, and indoor plumbing. There were no obvious palaces, no giant temples, no clear kings. The civilization appeared organized, efficient, and strangely peaceful. Then, around 1900 BCE, it unraveled. Rivers shifted course, climate patterns changed, trade networks collapsed, cities were slowly abandoned. There is little evidence of war or invasion. The people didn't vanish suddenly, they dispersed. Their writing remains undeciphered to this day. We don't know their rulers, their beliefs, or their laws. The Norte Chico civilization, also known as the Corral Supi civilization, existed along the coast of modern-day Peru around 3000 BCE, making it one of the oldest civilizations in the world, older than Egypt's pyramids. They built large ceremonial centers, massive platform mounds, and planned settlements, all without pottery, metal tools, or written language. Their society was organized, peaceful, and heavily dependent on a fragile balance between agriculture inland and fishing along the coast. That balance didn't last. Environmental changes disrupted marine resources. Agricultural output declined. Trade between coastal and inland communities broke down. Without a strong military or centralized authority to adapt quickly, the system unraveled. By around 1800 BCE, Norte Chico was abandoned. No dramatic destruction, no conquest, just empty cities and silence. One of humanity's earliest civilizations disappeared so completely that it wasn't rediscovered until the late 20th century. The Akkadian Empire was the world's first true empire. Founded by Sargon of Akkad around 2300 BCE, it united Mesopotamia under centralized rule, a common language, and military dominance. But its strength made it fragile. Around 2200 BCE, a severe climate event struck the region. Drought devastated agriculture. Famine spread. Cities emptied. Rebellions erupted. Trade collapsed. The centralized system failed. Within decades, the Akkadian Empire fractured. Its capital was abandoned and lost to history. Later civilizations remembered Akkad as a fallen golden age, powerful, advanced, and gone. The Minoans ruled the island of Crete during the Bronze Age. They were master sailors, traders, and artists. Their palaces featured running water, colorful frescoes, and no defensive walls, suggesting a society that didn't expect war. Then nature intervened. Around 1600 BCE, the volcanic eruption of Thera unleashed earthquakes, tsunamis, and ash clouds across the region. Ports were destroyed. Agriculture collapsed. Trade networks vanished. Weakened and exposed, the Minoans were overtaken by Mycenaean Greeks. Their language disappeared. Their religious practices vanished. Within a few generations, Minoan civilization no longer existed, replaced by a new culture that absorbed only fragments of what came before. The Hittite Empire once rivaled Egypt itself. They controlled vast territories in Anatolia, pioneered iron technology, and built complex legal systems. Then, around 1200 BCE, everything collapsed. Across the eastern Mediterranean, cities burned and trade routes failed during what historians call the Bronze Age collapse. The Hittite capital was destroyed. Administration vanished, writing stopped, they didn't retreat, they didn't recover, they ceased to exist. For centuries, the Hittites were known only through references in Egyptian records, until archaeologists rediscovered their cities buried beneath the earth. The Mycenaeans were the dominant Greek civilization before classical Greece. They built massive stone fortresses, ruled through warrior kings, and inspired legends like the Trojan War. Then their world collapsed. Around 1200 BCE, Mycenaean palaces were destroyed one by one. Trade ended. Writing systems vanished. Populations declined sharply. What followed was the Greek Dark Age. Literacy disappeared. Cities shrank. History itself seemed to pause. The Mycenaean world was wiped out so completely that later, Greeks remembered it only through myth. The Ancestral Puebloans built one of the most remarkable civilizations in North America. Between 700 and 1300 CE, they constructed massive stone villages, cliff dwellings, and ceremonial centers across the American Southwest. They farmed corn, beans, and squash in an unforgiving desert environment, relying on rainfall and carefully managed water systems. For centuries, it worked. Then the climate changed. A prolonged drought struck the region in the late 1200s. Crops failed. Resources became scarce. Evidence suggests rising violence and social stress. Instead of collapsing into chaos, entire communities left. Cities were abandoned. Cliff dwellings were sealed and never reoccupied. The people survived by migrating, but their civilization, its cities, its centers, its way of life, was wiped out. The Nazca civilization thrived in one of the driest places on Earth, the Peruvian desert. They built underground aqueducts, created intricate pottery, and carved massive geoglyphs into the landscape. But they pushed their environment too far. Deforestation weakened the ecosystem. El Niño events caused catastrophic flooding. Agriculture collapsed. By around 800 CE, Nazca civilization disintegrated. The people scattered. No written records remain. Only the giant lines etched into the desert mark where a civilization once existed. The classic Maya civilization was one of the most advanced in the ancient Americas. They were astronomers, mathematicians, architects, and historians. Between 250 and 900 CE, their cities flourished across Mesoamerica. Then the cities emptied. No single invasion ended them. Instead, droughts intensified. Forests were cleared. Populations exceeded sustainable limits. Political rivalries turned violent. City after city was abandoned. The Maya people survived, but their civilization did not. Their cities were reclaimed by the jungle. Writing traditions were lost. Knowledge disappeared for centuries. The Khmer Empire was one of the most powerful civilizations Southeast Asia had ever seen. At its height between the 9th and 14th centuries, it ruled much of modern-day Cambodia, Thailand, Laos, and Vietnam. Its capital, Angkor, was one of the largest cities on Earth at the time. Angkor Wat, its most famous temple, wasn't just a religious monument. It was part of a massive urban system, supported by one of the most complex water management networks ever built. Reservoirs, canals, and moats controlled floods and stored water for dry seasons. The entire civilization depended on it, and that system failed. Climate shifts brought extreme droughts followed by intense monsoon floods. The water network, once a strength, became impossible to maintain. Canals clogged, reservoirs failed, agriculture collapsed. As food shortages grew, political instability followed. By the 1400s, Angkor was largely abandoned. The population dispersed. The empire collapsed, not through sudden conquest, but through environmental breakdown and infrastructural failure. The jungle slowly reclaimed the city, hiding one of the world's greatest urban centers for centuries. Easter Island is one of the most isolated places on Earth. When Polynesian settlers arrived around 1200 CE, they built a society capable of carving and transporting massive stone statues, the moai. But the island's resources were limited. Forests were cut down to move statues and build canoes. Without trees, soil eroded. Crops failed. Fishing declined. Social conflict intensified. By the time Europeans arrived in the 1700s, The civilization that built the Moai had already collapsed. Population numbers had plummeted. Social order was gone. What remained was an island stripped of its resources and a culture that pushed its environment past the point of recovery.